There's one set of fins on this table that I would choose if I could only have one set that will work in almost every twin fin, give or take. I'll tell you about that at the end. Today we're going to be talking about how to choose the right twin fins for your twin fin surfboard, because if you get the wrong ones, it can really make your surf suck. So whenever I get a new twin fin, I try a few different fins in the board and I usually dial it in and I get the best out of the board. And I'm going to take you through that process. Also today, I'm going to share with you my absolute favorite twin fins. I think the saying's true. When you change your fins, you change the board. Now, a lot of surfers only have one set of fins in their board. Sometimes they just put the set of fins in and that's all they ever try. What a shame. So when we change our fins, it's going to make the board behave differently. So I'm going to help you with my notes on how I've noticed the boards change in their behavior with some different fin setups. I've gathered a few different types of fins here, and we're going to go through the range, including some alternative fins, and we're going to see which ones I would recommend for your board. I want to get this out of the way quickly. All the fins I show you today are going to be Futures system, the single tab system. And there's a really important reason for that, apart from them being way better, is there's a super limited range of twin fins available in the other system, the FCS system. So I really like the single tab system. They are stronger. The boxes hold better. Remember, we've only got 2 fins instead of 3, so we want them to be strong, and there is such an amazing range of fins available for this system. So if you are a twin fin lover, I would recommend you consider the Futures/single tab system for your fins. Okay, the only exception to the FCS is if you have a Mark Richards twin fin, of which I do, and it does have FCS, so I've tried them. So let me just take you a quick tour of the FCS twin fin options. Channel Islands, this comes with a trailer. This is for smaller riders or performance riders. It's actually pretty good. Of course, you need a set of MRs if you have FCFs too. This is a larger fin than the Channel Islands, and it has a trailer fin, and it works really well with an MR board. The Power Twin, this is a really good large size twin fin. You don't ride it with a trailer. I don't think it comes with a trailer. It doesn't need it. This is the best fin for an FCS 220 of a performance type, especially if you're a large person or you like to do big power turns. The Christensen is a little bit more laid back, so if you have a wider tail, then this one is good. Finally, if you have a very wide swallowtail, you'll probably want this one. This is the FCS2 keel. It's a modern keel, it's called. You can also try putting this in your FCS thruster if you wanted to see what it would feel like with 2 fins. But again, that's about it. This is the entire range of FCS fins that I've tried. You can see I've got a lot more of the Futures ones, so let's go and check them out. Hey, if you want to get notified when I post a new video like this, please subscribe to the channel. A really good hack that I know when you want to know what fins work well on a board, ask the shaper. Say, what fins work well on this board? Often, if I can't get a board to work the way I want, I'll ask the shaper and they'll give me some insights into what they've already heard from other customers, and that gets me really close to the mark. But these days, the shapers are asking me what fins work best on their boards because I've tested them all. This style of fish, it's called a Liz fish after Steve Liz, but they used to be knee boards and then they turned into surfboards in the 60s from the San Diego region. These will have a swallow tail and the fins will be wider apart. So on a shorter board with a wider tail, we're going to be looking for a keel fin, and you can see that it has a lot of surface area. This particular example is a saw fin from Australia. It's handmade and it's absolutely gorgeous. This will give you a lot of drive and control in a board that is short and wide. Now, of course, Mark Richards was very progressive, and in the late 70s and early 80s, he won 4 world titles on this type of board. In fact, this is a replica of his freeride. He actually crafted these upright fins out of a skateboard deck. Now, this is a more pulled in tail and it's got a flyer with a small swallowtail. So when we get a board that is more performance oriented with a more pulled in tail, then we're going more upright. I have a lot of respect for Mark Richards after riding this board a few times. It is squirrely, very hard to control. That is why I think him and a lot of others are now riding these style fins with a trailer. And we'll talk more about that soon. Okay, so when you get into the modern day performance twin fins, you might find that you've got a board somewhere in the middle. It's not too wide and it's not too narrow. How about this one? It's a diamond tail. This is a Campbell designed binary twin, and it is about as modern as you can get. It's got these carbon springs in there, a mechanical spring system. on the top and bottom of this board. It is made out of epoxy EPS. It's using the ExoFlex technology. It could work with uprights. I've tried it with uprights, but it's a little bit loose. So what I wanted to do is try it with more fin. And so I've put a half keel here. So you can see this fin, which is an NVS Apex Series ONO keel, and it's made out of G10 fiberglass. This particular fin is a little bit thinner. The foil, that's how thick the foil is. It's a bit thinner and it's very precise. This board is like a high performance Formula One machine. It does not need a trailing fin. It's got this little channel as well. It's important while we're talking about channels. If your board has channels, then it is going to act a little bit like a fin. They say a 6-channel board is like 1/3 of a fin. So effectively, you've got the same surface area very close to as a thruster when you have channels. This one has a little single channel in the board and this little edge is gripping. So I found a half keel in this type of board gives you the maximum drive, but you still have plenty of performance. And these half keels are a little more upright than a full keel, but they're not as upright as the upright keel. This is a really good all-rounding keel. So now we have a longer board. This one's 7.4 and it does have channels. It's got 4 beautiful channels, and so it reminds me of a ColourBond roof. This one is made by a local shaper, Mitch Sermon, and you'll notice that these fins are very close together and is a very pinned tail. So this board does not want too much fin, but it's going to be ridden in good waves. When I rode it with very small uprights, what I found was it didn't have enough drive, so I wanted to get halfway between. So you'll find there's a whole bunch of hybrid fins, and I'll show you some of my favorites. These ones are made by Alkali, and this is an Ellis fin, and what it does that's quite good is it has a pretty long base, but then it's very thin and more upright at the top. So this fin actually allows you to have that pivot. It doesn't have much drag, but it still has some good drive at the base there. So when you have a longer, thinner, pointier board, and you also have channels, you don't need as much fin, especially if the fins are closer together. So as a general rule of thumb, the closer together the fins are, the less fin you need. If they're very forward, then you might be looking more of an upright. If they're very back, you might be looking more of a keel, but often the further back and wider apart and a little more forward and together. So there's some rule of thumbs. There's some other little things like how big a rider you are, but I'll show you the options for that too. All right, this board here is a Campbell designed with ExoFlex again. It's EPS, it's also 7.4 like the other board, but it's much wider. This is 22 inches wide and it's thick, it's 3 inches thick. So we've got more board, and you'll notice that these fins are a little further forward and a little wider apart, so that means we need more fin. So if we want the performance, we get these Futures BMT twins. These are fantastic. They're Brit Merrick twins. What they are is a more upright keel, but then raked back. So they have more surface area than a traditional upright, but they're still not as keely as a keel fin, so they still allow the board to turn. These fins will work in a broad range of twin fins, and I really like them for the performance oriented boards, and as soon as you start going to a wider tail but not as wide as you want keels, this is a really great half keel option. Okay, what we have here is a longer board again. This one is 7.8. It's not the longest fish I have. I've actually got an 8.8 twin fin, but similar principles apply. We've got a swallow tail, but it's a little pulled in, but it is a wide board at 22 inches and it's 2 7/8 thick, so we need quite a bit of fin. You can see these are glassed on keels. Now, this makes it easy for us because we don't have to choose. It's always going to have these keels. It means it's a little harder to travel with, but this board is going to have a lot of drive. It's going to just get up and boogie, and it's a point board. It's not going to be as good for those big turns off the top and re-entries because it's got such a long keel that it's not going to turn as easily as a more upright one. So think drive, think speed. And if you are big and heavy, then of course you can throw it around a bit. But this is more of a cruiser, and it's pretty cool if you ask me. This is shaped by Thomas Surfboards, another local surfboard shaper in Noosa here. All the boards that I'm showing you today have been shaped locally except for Mark Richards. Aren't we lucky to live in such a mecca of amazing surfboards? Okay, so now we've had a look at the boards with some fins on them. Let's have a look at some of the other fins. We'll put them into 3 categories. Category 1, the performance upright fins, category 2, the mid half keels, and category 3, the keels. So if you're a smaller rider, I'd suggest something like the Aquila keel. If you're a larger rider, my favorite is the EN. Now they've changed the look of this fin. It's actually now a beige color, but if I put them beside each other, you can see they're both upright fins, but the EN has got more surface area. So again, if you have a wider tail or you're just a bigger rider, go with the EN, which is that one. And if you're smaller, go with the Aquila. Now, of course, Channel Islands have a 2+1 setup, which is a smaller fin, a smallish fin, and they have that trailer. This worked really well on a performance twin that I had. If you like alternative fins, I really like this Chipper Wilson with trailer, because this is fiberglass. It's a bit heavier, but it's strong and it's got a lot more power. If we compare the size of these two, just like we did before, you'll see the Chipper Wilson is a little more rounded and just a bit larger than the Channel Islands version. Now, as our wild card, consider trying something like the S-Wings. These are the twin 520s. The purple one is for good waves or getting barreled. There's also different colors. The orange one I also have, and that's a softer fin or for a smaller rider. So if you're big, try these. These have worked particularly well in my performance twins. They will give you the biggest, longest sweeping turns, and they will surprise you. Okay, now you've seen my saw fins on the album Sunstone, that Liz style fish, and they're amazing. I'm going to show you a few other keel options now. A really popular keel fin is the Futures Dave Rastovich keel. Obviously he's an amazing surfer, and it's got some cool different materials here and some cosmic designs. This is probably available in most shops, and it's a good keel, right? But it's pretty raked back. I've had a lot of good surfs with this keel fin, but there are others out there you should know about. An absolute classic is this True Amez, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that, Hobie keel. This is really, really big. Look at that. Let's compare them, the sizes of these two, and you'll see we're in the sort of upper area category here. So the Hobie is a bit taller and a bit longer. It is an absolute driver. So if you have a very, very wide swallowtail or a huge board, this one is going to be a good starting point. Now, my favorite in this category is the Mikey February Captain Fins. This one here, we'll just compare the size of that. It is not quite as drivey, and it's a little more upright. It's sort of on the way from half keel into keel, and that's why I really like it. It works really well on an 8'2" diamond tail channel bottom that I have. I don't need as much area in my channel bottom, but I have the exact same board in a swallowtail, and that's when I put these on. It needs that extra fin because the fins are further apart and it's a big board with a lot of volume. So this one here, the Mikey February Captain Fins, is amazing. Now again, the wild card is this S-Wings keel. They have a keel version. It's made out of Volan. This thing is a beast. Let's just put it back to back with my favorite fin, and we'll see how that stacks up. You'll see that it goes much further back, so it's got a lot of that slingshot drive, and it's basically got a little bit less area down here. So that means it turns. Okay, so it's still turning, but it's got the drive. Try these out. You might be surprised how they go. And I'm still experimenting with these. Even though they look strange, they are actually a lot of fun. Now, a couple of little tips. If you need to change your fin, it's okay to sand them. Sometimes when I buy a fin, they're very, very sharp, especially if they're thinly foiled, and you might cut your ankles because twin fins tend to sit out wide. Some of them have more cant, so they sit out wider, so keep an eye on that. And what I do is I sand them down a bit so they're blunter and they don't cut like a knife. Also, you can actually reprofile them. I bought quite a few fins from Alcali, and they say, hey, go ahead, reshape them if you want, experiment with them. And I've changed my fins a little bit. In some cases I have two sets of their twin fin, their classic twin, and I've shaved one of them down a little bit and made it a different profile, and it's really great. It's good fun. So don't be afraid to do that when you get a set of fiberglass fins. Now the mid-keel is my favorite category because they work in most boards. Let's just have a look at a few of the options. You've already seen some of my options here. If you remember, we had the Channel Islands BMT, we had the Ellis, and we had the NVS. So they're all great mid-keels. One of my favorite hybrid fins at the moment is this Jim Banks hooker, and you can see that it's got more of a keel base, but then it comes up nice and tight in the top like a more upright fin, but it's pretty slanted back. And Jim Banks really likes having a lot of fin. He's one of those shapers that likes plenty of fin for drive. Doesn't understand why people would put very small fins in twin fins, and he also uses pretty deep concaves in his future form shape, so he wants a lot of fin, and these have turned out really good in that crossover type boards. Another great shaper is a Mano, and this one is it's like a slightly smaller version than a BMT. It's a more raked upright keel with a little extension at the back. Very good fin, works beautifully in twin pins. If you want to see them side by side, I'll just show you a comparison. You can see hooker fin is more raked back and the Amano is more upright. Okay, so you think drive here and turning here. Alternative fin in this category is the mid-keel by S-Wings, and this thing is great. Again, a surprise. You put them on the board, you think these look weird, I don't know how it's going to go, but it's fast and smooth. It has less drag, it has amazing spring in the turns. I'm impressed with these. They do have a small base, but they're really long, so it's like the best of both worlds. My favorite fin in this category is the Chris Christensen half keel, and you can see that it is a little bit further forward than the base, so it's got that upright pivot but also has a longer base here for drive. And these are honeycomb. He makes these also in fiberglass, but in a video that I watched of Chris, he says these are 30% lighter, and he's a fan of underfinning or keeping less fin for less drag. This is the favorite fin. This will work in a swallowtail, a wider swallowtail, but it will also work in a more performance-y board. Even you think it might be too much fin, but it's not. So I really, really rate these. If you could only have one set of twin fins, start with this one. When it comes to materials, you know, I've had some pretty interesting fins. I actually got sent some free fins that were molded plastic, and they were shit. They were like a foamy, they just flexible, like literally flapping in the breeze. So you'd be looking for other ones like fiberglass. These things are great and they're easy to sand. The next version of fiberglass is Volan, which is a super high quality. These are pretty strong and good for strong waves. And then there's this G10. This is made out of a single sheet and laser cut, and they're super precise. And the other type is the honeycomb and the carbon types, right? So some of the fins that you get are honeycomb, and they're going to be lighter and they're going to be good for small to medium waves. Hey, thanks for coming on a journey through my fin inventory with me. I hope you've enjoyed it. And by the way, do you have a favorite set of fins for your twin fin? Let me know about it in the comments below. I really love to see what you're riding, how it feels for you. And remember, with your fins, experiment, try a few different sets, because you might be one set of fins away from unlocking that board.